What are the hardest jobs that surprisingly pay very poorly? Flight attendants. They will tell you that they pay $25 per hour. What they don't tell you is that you are only paid for flight hours, not boarding, deplaning, delays, ground stops, cleaning the plane between flights, pre-flight crew briefing, pre-flighting emergency equipment, checking catering supplies, etc. You get paid for about 20 hours per week, but are away from home 4 to 5 days per week if you live in your base city. If you have to commute, add half a day on each end. I loved it and would do it for that little amount, but it can be hard to keep your head above water financially. Especially if you commute. Commuters pay for either a crash pad or hotel room in their base city before and after trips. EMS or other 911 dispatchers. Imagine dealing with all the worst traumas over the phone, having to get help started and document everything, take control of the scene so everyone who needs help gets it. Also doing this while often speaking to hysterical people who just want help there immediately, and don't realize the questions determine what type of help, what first aid instructions they get, how many resources are needed, etc. Then after shift you still hear the screams, or worse, the complete silence of someone who passed while on the phone with you. Customer service jobs at a call center. Have you ever wondered why when you call customer service the person on the other end is surly and doesn't seem to actually want to help you? It's because they're paid shit wages for an utterly shit job. They're stuck in a queue, the calls come in relentlessly without a break, and almost everyone they're talking to is pissed off about something. Now, if they had the resources, training, and pay to actually fucking help people, the job wouldn't be all that bad. Mrs. Johnson, I'm sorry that your cable bill has gone up by 20%. Let's see what we can do to fix that, and then they spend a while trying to fix the problem. That's not what the call center employee gets to do. Instead of providing customer service, they're supposed to handle the call in a set number of minutes, follow the script, wrap up the case in an even shorter time, and go back into the queue to get yelled at again. If they don't hit their metrics, they get yelled at by their boss. When they get their paycheck, it's only slightly more than what they'd get working a drive-thru. Hard? As in physically demanding? I can only speak on my job because it's the only one I have ever held in my life. Cooking, but more especially cooking at a high level. I cook in a 3 Michelin star restaurant. You don't stop moving for 12+ hours. Breaks don't exist, or the ones you get can be counted in minutes on one hand. Everything is hot, everything can burn you, nobody gives a fuck about anything other than you performing perfectly. You aren't good enough, nothing is good enough. Something is always wrong, and you can always be better, and you will never not be told so. Some jobs are demanding, but it isn't down to the very second, followed by the same job performed down to the very second, again and again and again. I leave work and by the time I get home I sleep for maybe 4 to 6 hours, depending on my schedule, and I have to be back. I'm 30, broke as fuck, making far less than I could elsewhere, and I love it. Arborist ground crew. Tree branches or entire trees falling around you, plus running chainsaws, and the potential to get caught up in a wood chipper and Fargo yourself. I did not make good money unless it was a prevailing wages gig. Even when I climbed, the money wasn't worth the risk. A few years after I left the industry, my best friend ended up falling 35 feet from a tree with the top, forcing him to the ground. When he hit, the tree top landed on top of his hips, and they both bounced and then hit again. He spent months in the hospital and multiple surgeries to be able to walk again. He ended up not going bankrupt because it was a prevailing wages job, so when LNI got involved, he was getting paid the entire time of his recovery. They paid for worker retraining for a new line of work. Teaching. Teachers are so important. My mom was a Head Start teacher. She had to evaluate each kid, and if there were any kids with learning/behavioral issues, she would have to create a separate lesson plan for said kid. Which meant meeting with the parents. kid and a psychologist multiple times to ensure the kid got a proper education for his needs. She would also have to do home visits in unfavorable/dangerous areas. Also watch every kid to make sure their home life was good, their needs were met, they weren't coming to school in dirty clothes/unhygienic, etc. on top of lesson plans for all the other kids. She would have to decorate/supply her classroom on her dime. She was working all day and come home to do paperwork/lesson plan all night. This was in Puerto Rico, but she also did it for a few years in Florida. She taught me to appreciate teachers. They truly have an impact on our children/future generations, yet we pay them close to nothing. Ick about hard, but certainly high risk involved working security at a bar in a major city. You constantly have to deal with people who are just straight up assholes, most of them have drinking problems. Have your life threatened several times throughout the year. Knives, guns getting pulled, had a coworker get jumped and lose his eyesight. They had to do emergency surgery at the hospital to reattach the retinas in each of his eyes, just for him to get about half of his vision back. Certainly not worth the low pay. I could go on and on about it. I've had people threaten me directly to shoot me at least a dozen times, have had several more threaten to shoot the place up. I'm white and our bar is definitely a melting pot, but man do I have to deal with a lot of racist people. Roofing. There's good money to be made in roofing once you learn the trade, but starting out sucks. I've only worked on a few roofing jobs, and it wasn't for me. That and on almost every occasion I got screwed on pay. LOL, what are the odds? First off, it's hot as shit out there. These were all in North Carolina, but it was averaging about 95 degrees every day, and it's much hotter than that when you're on a tar roof with no shade and the water cooler is on the ground. You must have good work boots and even better balance. Two-story houses are no joke and quite common in the business. Next, you'll probably be carrying 60-pound bundles of shingles up a ladder for the majority of the day, and in most cases, you'll be expected to do it fast. If it rained the day before, good luck to you pal, because it's gonna be slippery as all shit. Finally, the people you work with. Most have either roofed their whole lives or roofed full-time when they weren't in prison. I mention this because they will not care how bad you hurt. If you scrape your knees on the shingles and can barely walk, think you're not getting paid enough, or practically any other concern you have. It's hard work, and when you get paid for it, every dime counts. I've always been the shingle toter when I've helped on these jobs. One was an 8-hour gig in 2004 and I made $40. Another was $6 an hour in 2007, was a 2-story church and had rained the night before. They had a 40-foot extension ladder that would begin shaking after the first few rungs. I carried maybe 6 bundles up and slipped and dropped the shingles, but caught myself and didn't fall. The shingles were damaged, and the owner said that would come out of my $6 an hour at the end of the week. Good luck with that, buddy. I grabbed my phone from inside the truck and walked over 15 miles back home down I-85 in Charlotte. The last gig was in 2017 at a homeless shelter in Burlington, North Carolina. I truly thought this man wanted to help less fortunate people by paying them honest money to do honest work. 10 hours later, after toting all day, he paid me a whopping $20, and I never heard from him again. He wanted me to give me $10 because he was low on cash. I have installed playgrounds and swimming pool liners, replaced rotted joists and plates under 100-year-old homes, waterproofed new foundations with heated tar and a paint roller, treated over 100 crawl spaces for termites, cleaned up logging sites, and countless other hard jobs. I will never climb on another roof for pay ever again. I've been on and done a little work to our roof at home and it wasn't so bad. Haha. This can be measured in different ways. Some jobs cause long-lasting health problems, like working in many factories where the air isn't clean, or where you're handling chemicals or breathing in smoke. I would say, as far as amount of work, it's really tough to beat a fast food employee at certain restaurants. Not every restaurant is the same because there are different volumes and expectations based on ownership, But one I worked at when younger basically had every employee running around all day without stopping for minimum wage. They were also stressful as you were always short-handed with angry customers who would threaten people over a chicken sandwich. I've seen this multiple times. While obviously EMTs, teachers, police, and others should be mentioned, the actual volume of work at certain restaurant jobs is absolutely insane. You're not watching people die, at least, so not minimizing that at all.